The Falcons stopping Justin Fields' running ability is the key to victory. We'll be breaking it down on today's Locked On Falcons.
You are Locked On Falcons, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So, guys, you know me. I'm Aaron Freeman, a.k.a. Sirius Black, a.k.a. Mr. Drew, and a.k.a. the very humble host of this illustrious Locked On Falcons podcast, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast, part of the Locked On Sports Atlanta podcast family. And today's episode of Locked On Falcons is sponsored by SimpliSafe Home Security with Fast Protect technology exclusively from SimpliSafe. 24/7 monitoring agents capture evidence to accurately verify a threat for faster police response. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. Visit simplisafecom/LockedOnNFL to learn more. So, guys, we thank you for making Locked On Falcons your first listen each and every day. It's free and available Monday through Friday on a variety of podcast platforms, including Apple, Odyssey, Google, Spotify, and YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to the Locked On Falcons on YouTube. Hit that like button, and you will get the video version of the podcast the night before the audio drops. So, once again, it is the end of the week with the Falcons preparing for a game in Week 11 against the Chicago Bears. And I am once again joined by Jarvis Davis. You know him, you love him. He's on ATL Day Ones, one of the three shows on the Locked On Sports Atlanta podcast feed. And every week we ask Jarvis ahead of the game, where, after the game we'll be doing the postcast, but ahead of the game we ask Jarvis, what is your key to victory for the Falcons? So Jarvis, I give you the floor, my friend, to break it down for us.
You know what, to be honest with you, Aaron, I think it's pretty simple. When you talk about a team that just coming off a game that they just gave up over 200 yards rushing, I think the simple fact is they have to stop the run. The EPs has to come up with a scheme to be able to slow down Justin Fields. Notice I said slow down. I know I said stop, but I don't think that's going to happen, because when you're talking about design quarterback runs and getting out of the pocket on pass plays, when stuff breaks down, I think Justin Fields is going to get some yards rushing. I think that he's going to end up in the positive side of that. I think it's just a matter of making sure that he doesn't break off. Those plays don't turn into 20-plus yards, those explosive plays, or 30-plus yards. If depending on who you talk to. If you talk to DNPs, I think 30-plus is what he considers explosive versus 20-plus, which is what everybody else is considered an explosive play. So, hey, depending on who you talk to. But I think regardless of how they feel about what the yardage is for explosive plays, whatever they feel like explosive plays, they have to stop. They have to make sure they don't give up those in the run game, because we know the Chicago Bears are coming in, averaging, 30 points a game in the last few games. So those are some of the things that the Peas is going to have to key in on. And that up front, defensive line, and Grady Jarrett and Taquan Graham, Lorenzo Carter, hello, you're a football player. You were pretty good coming out of Georgia, so I think I need you to live up to it, at least in this game, because that's what we've been getting from Carter. He's had some good games, and he had some really, really bad games. In the last time that I saw number 9 out on the field, he did not have a good game. So I think that those guys are going to have to step up. I want to see the Taquan Graham that I saw early on in the season, where I say, hey, this guy's strength is stopping the run. He is very disruptive. He's a guy that can play alongside Grady Jarrett and kind of take some of that attention off of him. And when he gets one-on-one blocks, he can take advantage of that in the run game. So a lot of factors as to how they're going to stop him, or who has to play well in order for him to slow him down. But I think the Falcons can get it done.
Yeah, I think so. I think this is a good opportunity for Lorenzo Carter to impress you, because he's going up against a rookie in Braxton Jones at left tackle, who, from what I understand, struggles with the bull rush. That's Lorenzo Carter's strength right there.
That's all he uses.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll see, him collapsing that edge, but it's going to be critical with a quarterback like Fields, as you mentioned. Fields is going to get his, right? There's going to be a couple of runs. There's certainly going to be a couple of third downs that he's going to be able to pick up with his legs, and that's going to keep things going. But, the key is going to be good tackling, good pursuit. I think those edge rushers are going to play a part, like Lorenzo Carter. I mentioned on yesterday's Crossover Thursday with Locked On Bears host Lauren Cox. I don't want to see Ade Ogundeji out there. Just his speed is going to be a liability when you're dealing with a quarterback like Justin Fields, at least with Carter and Ebiketie and D'Angelo Malone. If Fields does break outside contain, those guys at least have a decent chance to be able to run him down, at least try to string out some runs and allow the defense to rally. At with his 4.8 speed, it's just not going to bring really anything to the table. And I don't even know if based off some of the film I've watched this year, I think if he's running sub 5.0 40 times, like that would be impressive to me at this point in time. No offense to Ade, he's certainly a contributor to this team, but this week I don't know if his contributions are really going to be very valuable for the Falcons this week. So we'll see about that. And I agree with you. I think the interior D line really has a great opportunity to really play a part. Grady Jarrett, Taquan Graham, Abdullah Anderson getting some revenge against his former Bears teammates. That's going to really help slow down Fields and flush him towards the Lorenzo Carters and the Ebiketie if they can get that pressure up the middle. Another point that Lauren Cox mentioned on yesterday's episode. So, I'm very curious to see if the Falcons can, as they say, rise up and take care of business, slowing down this run. And if they can, they will certainly have a chance to win it in the end. But you don't love, or at least I don't love, the possibility that, as pretty much every Falcon game comes down to the final drive, and if it's Justin Fields with the ball, and then he's just going to start running around and extending that drive and putting them in a position to get the potential game winning or game sealing sort of points at the end of the game. So as crazy as it sounds, I would feel a lot better if Marcus Mariota and the Atlanta Falcons have the ball last, which is not something I have said that often this year.
What did you just say?
And on that note, we'll move the conversation forward and get Jarvis's thoughts on the quote unquote quarterback situation that Arthur Smith says there is no situation, but we'll see if Jarvis agrees with Arthur Smith on that as we continue today's episode. But, Jarvis has been talking all week long about the Falcons as well as other teams in the local sports area like the Hawks, the Bulldogs, the Braves, etc., all on Locked On Sports Atlanta, which is your 3 shows that break down the local teams and national teams. That's ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tanitra Batiste. You got Hitting Hard with John Chucker. You got A to Z with Mark Zeno, all in the same podcast feed, on the same podcast feeds that you're listening to Locked On Falcons. And you can also watch it on YouTube. And if you subscribe to Locked On Sports Atlanta on YouTube, you will also be able to check out Jarvis and myself's postcast immediately after that final whistle. So we'll be giving you those live reactions to probably the 125 yards that Justin Fields racks up in this game, but perhaps the game-winning drive from Marcus Mariota to get the team over the hump. Whatever happens on Sunday, we will be there immediately after the game on Locked On Sports Atlanta on YouTube. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell so that you know when we go live. And guys, just around the corner is Black Friday, and I personally am not a big fan going out and try to waiting through all those crowds on those days. I like to do my shopping from the comfort of my couch, and I like being comfortable on said couch when I'm wearing Tommy John underwear. Tommy John is launching their Black Friday sale right now, and it's perfect for me. It's perfect for you. It gives you can give the gift of comfort for everyone on your list, including yourself, with a brand new pair of Tommy John underwear, loungewear, or pajamas. With over 18 million pairs sold, Tommy John has become a holiday tradition. 97% of women and men love getting the gift of Tommy John. Shop Tommy John's Black Friday sale right now and get 30% off site-wide at TommyJohn.com/lockedon. That's 30% off right now. 30% off of everything right now at TommyJohn.com/lockedon. TommyJohn.com/lockedon. See site for details. And guys, we thank you for making Locked On Falcons your first listen each and every day. And of course, always recommend, in addition to Locked On Sports Atlanta, what your second listen should be. And of course, That's Locked On Sports Today, where you're getting the biggest stories across all the sports from the local experts and giving you the insights that only Locked On can provide. So subscribe to Locked On Sports Today, available on Odyssey, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. So Jarvis, continuing the conversation here, talking about the quote-unquote quarterback situation. I'll just give you the floor. What are your thoughts on the Falcons' current quarterback situation?
All right. So I think a few weeks ago, man, we talked about this on the postcast. By the way, make sure y'all check that bad boy out. It's really good stuff. Like instant reaction from Aaron Freeman. Oh my gosh, it's like you gotta check it.
Last
out.
week was great. Thursday night was great.
That was epic, man. That was
we were
epic
on
stuff.
A different level.
Yes, it was some next level Super Saiyan type stuff going on after the Falcons games. But I think that what we did talk about is as far as like I've come to the conclusion that Marcus Mariota is who he is, and I'm fine with him playing at the quarterback position. But you know, this last particular game, like that was unacceptable, and I think that's what made it a situation. Marcus Mariota made it a situation. Of course, Arthur Smith is not going to admit to his quarterback playing like a bum last week. You know, when we know that he's capable, right? You know, so we have expectations as the guys who cover this team and fans as well. You know, we expect Marcus Mariota to play like a vet, and he played like a rookie quarterback last week. And if you're going to play like a rookie quarterback, I'm the type of guy that I like the real thing. You're not going to catch me eating vegan pork chops or vegan chicken or chicken, CHICK apostrophe N. You're not going to check me do that. I want the real thing. So if you're going to play like a rookie, let me see the rookie. Let me see Desmond Ridder. So I think that, you know, all Marcus Mariota has to do is just play within himself. Don't turn the football over. Don't make backwards reverse on my butt, you know, throws over my head, you know, because I thought somebody was open that I didn't see. You know, all you got to do is don't do that type of stuff, and you don't have to worry about it being a quote-unquote situation because your quarterback made it a situation by playing like he did last week. So that's my thought. So as far as what my expectations are, when you play out of those expectations, which aren't very high, by the way, let's go ahead and admit that now. You're like, don't pass the ball over 20 times. Don't turn the ball over. Like, that's the conversation that we have with rookie quarterbacks. So all Mariota has to do is just make sure you don't play like a rookie, and it won't be a situation.
Yeah, I agree with you. Mariota needs a good game this week. We need to be on that postcast being like, hey, Mariota had, you know, his best or second best game after that 49ers game this week. And he should have that good a game because the Bears defense is terrible. Right?
Yeah, they are.
Like the Falcons defense is terrible. Like the Bears defense is arguably worse than the Falcons defense. So, you know, so like if he
the best players are nowhere near the line of scrimmage. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I mean, when you have teams, best players are that far away from the line of scrimmage, you should have a pretty good day.
Yeah. So like I'm sitting here going like, you kind of touched upon this, Jarvis. Like we've been sort of for last couple of months been like, you know, we accept that Mariota is okay, right? Like he's okay. He's good enough to get the job done. And at this point, you know, as I often say on this podcast, beggars can't be choosers when it comes to being, you know, watching the Atlanta Falcons. And we've been kind of beggars, but now it's like we feel like we have a choice now. You know, we can choose better.
There's options out there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You know,
on the team.
And so, like now, it's like for me moving forward, I'm like I need Marcus Mariota to be more than just a guy that doesn't turn the ball over. That more than a guy that can just manage, you know, throwing 15 passes in a game. Like that's kind of where I'm at with like Arthur Smith's decision to roll with him moving forward. Like, you know, that choice to me is from the understanding of like, this is not where we are today is not where we're going to be tomorrow. And we've talked about this offense evolving for several weeks now. And while I think you see a glimpse here or there are signs if you squint. Like it needs to start really coming together, especially given that Arthur Smith is talking about, you know, this team's playoff chances and they kind of, whether, they win these next 3 games, they kind of need to get their act together. And
Right.
so my patience basically for Mariota continuing to be the version of Mariota that we've seen for most of the season is running thin.
I'm with you, and I think that the main thing is that you know I think that I've pretty much been okay with the decisions Arthur Smith has made, as a head coach of this team, and I think that he's a solid head coach. But I think that in order for him to kind of go to that next level of trust with me, I'm still standing out on the curb. You know what I mean? I'm still standing out on the curb with Terry Fontenot as well. I think that in order for that to grow, I think that these are the type of decisions that he's going to have to be better with, right? Because if you're telling me that you're trying to go to the next level as a team to go into the playoffs, based off of what we just seen these last couple of weeks, like how's that possible? So, like there can't be the fear of the unknown, right? Like your ego as a play caller has to come into play at some point. Even if you feel like a lot of people have made the assumption that, oh, Desmond Ridder isn't ready. Like, y'all don't know that. like you don't know that. We just talked about the very low expectations that we have for Mariota as a quarterback. And if you're saying that you're going to continue to roll with this cat as you try to grow into a playoff contender and winning the division, that's the only way you're going to do it, by winning the division. Like, you have to show me something. Like, show me the baby. And if you can't do that, then I start to question you as a decision maker, because you can't double down on a guy that continues to play badly this deep into the season as a veteran quarterback. So, right, like we're willing to give you a little leeway on young quarterbacks, because we know, hey, guy's still trying to figure it out, trying to learn his way. But when you come into play with a guy like Mariota, who's been in this league for quite some time, that's just unacceptable. And when you continue to put that out there, put that on display, it's just like you said, like, my expectation got to go up if you're talking about playoffs. Now, if you're just trying to say, hey, compete in every game, okay, cool, all right, that's fine, and y'all can compete, and then until you're mathematically out of the playoffs, then you throw the rookie in there. But if you're talking about being serious about being a contender for a playoff spot, like, dude, like, you're gonna be able to say, man, I know this is a rookie quarterback, we drafted him in the 3rd round, but hey, man, I know how to doggone put a scheme together so he won't kill us every Sunday.
Yeah.
Period. You know what I'm saying?
I agree with you. We'll probably touch upon a little bit more on that note to wrap up today's episode. I also kind of want to get your thoughts on, the conversation that many of us were having a couple of years ago when the Falcons were picking at the top of the 2021 draft and wound up selecting Kyle Pitts and, passing on a player like Justin Fields that a lot of people thought, myself included, probably would have been the better pick. So I'm just curious where, 18 months later, Jarvis, where your head is at on that. And we'll sort of wrap up today's episode talking about that, as well as this team's, playoff potential coming up, guys. But now I want to provide a word from our sponsor, BetOnline. They are the #1 source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. And since I know you guys love podcasts, you can also find those at betonline.net as well. And if you're looking for this weekend's line between the Falcons and Bears, it remains the Falcons as 3-point favorites. So we'll see if they can take care of business this weekend. And Mariota and company can do that. And if you feel good or bad, or you're still lukewarm on the Falcons, don't worry. BetOnline can give you the latest odds and trends, not only for football, but every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer to esports. They got you covered at betonline.net. So head to the website today at betonline.net or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. And guys, Locked On Falcons, along with All the other local shows are available on Roku and Amazon Fire TV as part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. You get the same great local sports coverage 24/7 and for free. All you got to do is download the Locked On Sports Atlanta app on Roku and Amazon Fire TV. So, Jarvis, I do want to, before we touch upon, the Fields Pitts conversation, I do want to build off that point that you were just touching upon. Like, the idea of this team being a playoff team, as we've discussed before, like I'm for it. I'm for the Falcons making the playoffs and surprising the world, shocking myself. I'm sure you as well.
Indeed.
We weren't looking at this team as a playoff contender several months ago. But if that's the goal, as as it's supposed to be, you're in the business of winning football games and making postseason. There's no way that Arthur Smith can believe that the current version of the offense is going to make the playoffs and actually do something in the playoffs. And I think that's where a lot of the frustration, where it's like going back to the previous point, where it's like we got to see more from this passing attack than what Mariota is providing. Any additional thoughts on that front?
I just think that, when you think about like the game plan going into every week, right? Run the football, make sure, hit some play action, maybe get some big plays down the field. And I think that when you think about that first part, right, that first piece with Marcus Mariota's running ability and that him being a threat to run the football, that's a really good game plan, right? But when you talk about the other side of that, throwing the ball down the field, that accuracy hasn't been there. It hasn't been there. And I think that now I know it's preseason, but Desmond Ridder, I like him throwing the football down the field. I think it's going where it's supposed to be, and I think that a lot of people can agree, outside of a few plays here and there, we don't know where the ball is going when Marcus Mariota throws the football down. And that's from a eyeball standpoint, and you can have the stats to back that up as well. So I think that, because Mariota is one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL in throwing the ball down the field. So I think that at the end of the day, your game plan doesn't change if you put Ridder in, So my whole thing is just like, he's not doesn't have those running capabilities, but I trust the offensive line enough to be able to run the football at a decent rate, in order to do what they want to do on offense and be successful. Because at the end of the day, right now, based off these past couple of games, Mariota just hasn't been what I feel Arthur Smith wants or needs in order to be the team that he wants to be. And that's getting into the playoffs and potentially try to at least be able to compete and build off something going into the next season.
Yeah, you're right. Like, Mariota brings something to the table. I think it would be a lot easier to buy stock on Mariota if he was a huge part of the Falcons running game. Like, they do mix in a healthy amount of design quarterback runs, but it seems more of an afterthought. And you contrast that with how the Bears have been utilizing Justin Fields as of late. And then you talk about the inability to hit those deep throws. And that was something discussed on yesterday's crossover here, that, he's basically one of the worst deep ball passers in the league so far this year. And he's attempting, more than most quarterbacks. I think he was like tied for fifth in terms of the highest percentage of deep ball throws. So like the potential is still there, right? It's like, it just feels like it's just like an arm's length away of like, okay, if he starts hitting these throws and starts making these plays, all of a sudden, like, we're not coming on this podcast every week and complaining about
exactly.
The bar isn't high. Just like, it's not even like he has to hit all of the throws. It's just like, if he just gets like one or two more,
hit 40% of them, hit 40%, less than 50%, 40%, just hit 40%. I promise you, it's a whole different ballgame, a whole different conversation.
And so like that feels like what's missing. And you're not seeing Kyle Pitts be heavily involved. Drake London hasn't caught a deep ball since like the Seahawks game. And then you just sort of look at it, and this has been a topic of discussion all year long with, Kyle Pitts not having the production. And it's very clear that Kyle Pitts, or really any pass catcher, if you want to throw Drake London into the conversation as well, they need a good quarterback to be productive. And so this was something I wrote about on the Falcoholic this week. It's probably available today as you guys are listening to it on Friday. That, you look back at that pick, and at the time, when Matt Ryan was the quarterback, when Julio was still on the team and Ridley was still on the team, picking Kyle Pitts made a ton of sense at the time, because it was like, okay, well, he's going to help, reinvigorate Matt Ryan's career, because we're going to have Matt Ryan for a couple more years, and he's not going to go out like a punk, basically, because he's going to have these weapons to throw to, and there's still other issues with the team that we got to deal with, but at least the very least we can see Matt Ryan finish strong here in Atlanta for the next 3 to 5 years, or however we thought it was going to be at that point in time. And then of course they trade Julio, Ridley walks away, and then they wind up trading Matt Ryan, and so that dream died, which goes back to the point I made in the past, where it's like, I just think they're making it up as they go. Like, there's no grand plan. And like when you see, and this is one of the things I touched upon in the Falcoholic piece, but like when you see like how they're running their offense, that they're running, a scaled down version of the offense that the Bears are currently running with Justin Fields, and he seems to be shining. So like, if this is all part of some grand plan, you would think, okay, hindsight kind of tells you that you probably should have taken Justin Fields. And so I'm just curious, Jarvis, where do you sort of stand on that draft selection? Obviously, I think I don't think the Kyle Pitts selection was the wrong choice. That's not what I'm trying to say, but it's very clear. It's really dependent on you getting a quarterback. And right now, until Desmond Ridder becomes that guy, or somebody else becomes that guy, because I don't know if it's going to be Mariota, the Falcons don't have a quarterback.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, let me just start here. First of all, I was wholeheartedly against Kyle Pitts, and it has nothing to do with him as a player and what he brings to the table. And I know a lot of people fascinated by the 40 time and line up at wide receiver, looking like a real tight end, and having those capabilities to go one-on-one against corners and, attacking the ball, all that good stuff. Yeah, I get it. But for me, I was more so hyper-focused on what the Falcons' issues have been. If you were trying to keep Matt Ryan around for a while, why not help protect him? He was getting sacked 40 times a season, and you were just struggling trying to doggone protect this dude. And I think that, I was all in on Penei Sewell. I know a lot of people throw Micah Parsons in there, but I wasn't. I really like Micah Parsons. Don't get me wrong, but I definitely didn't consider him a guy that, at the time, to take him, at number 4 in that draft. I was just all in on Penei Sewell, because he could have been a guy you could have played at the right tackle spot, insert him immediately. Ask me what they were going to do with Caleb McGarry. I don't give a damn. They can move him to guard. He can play backup. He can be a swing tackle. Who cares? Because Penei Sewell is a guy that has come into this league, and he's been everything that people expected him to be. So that's where I was from, as far as from who they should have picked. But, obviously I was definitely fascinated by Justin Fields for sure, because when you think about what Arthur Smith wants to do each and every Sunday, like he said, it's a watered down version. Like, you could have had Justin Fields running this type of offense, but like you said, they didn't really have a plan, because they went after Deshaun Watson. So if with Matt Ryan on this roster, so it's just a lot of weirdness. I think that, when it comes to that 2021 draft, because I think they were just kind of going with the flow, so to speak. And we all, got a pretty good idea that, Arthur Blank was kind of pushed that on Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith. The owner said, hey, I want to go after this ball boy that used to work for us. They kind of got to go do that and try to figure it out. But I think that Mariota was definitely the breaking case of emergency type situation. And I think that when you have a guy that you quote unquote fell in love with at the Senior Bowl in Desmond Ridder, it's just like, all right, like y'all weren't all in on this dude. Y'all were all in on Deshaun Watson. So now we defending the dude. This is what y'all kind of falling on the sword, so to speak. So I think that with that 2021 NFL draft, I would rather them have drafted Penei Sewell, and who knows, regardless of they would have pursued Deshaun Watson after that, it wouldn't have mattered for real because you would have been able to protect your quarterback and you still wouldn't be dealing with these issues at right tackle with Kalen McGarry and pass pro. So yeah, I was more so on fixing the issue that you knew was an issue and and then going from there instead of trying to say, oh yeah, let's get all the weapons we can get so we can extend Matt Ryan's career. Whatever.
Yeah. It's, the best player available is we're going to take the best player available and then we'll figure it out, right?
That's essentially, that's the plan.
We'll just collect good players and 20
figure out roster building
22
later
good
on.
Players and we'll probably be successful, like that sort of strategy.
At some point.
I get it, I get it. Like I don't.
But you don't have to agree with it though, Aaron. It's okay. It's
yeah,
man.
I'm just thinking. Now I'm revisiting my Micah Parsons takes because I was a big fan of Parsons, but at the same time, like taking what
he took a year off, so I get it, I understand, but damn,
and
that
the perception
so
of him
good.
was he was an off-ball linebacker at that time, and you're just like, I don't know if I'm going to take an off-ball linebacker, and then for him to basically turn into like the league's best pass rusher since Von Miller,
a machine.
Despite he didn't rush the quarterback at all in college, makes him like the biggest outlier of all time.
Oh my gosh.
And so it's like, I like Micah Parsons, but if you would ask me, oh, this guy's going to have like 30 sacks in his first 2 seasons, I'd be like, no, there's no way that's happening.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, being that the Falcons passed on him, of course he's going to be that guy, right? Because that's just how it is when it comes to Falcons and drafting pass rushers.
Right?
Yeah, come on, man.
He does it for Dan Quinn now. Yeah, so of course, that's just the way it goes, right?
Right. Like Dan Quinn is coaching a elite level defense. Wow, imagine that sentence coming out of our mouths right now.
Yeah, that's
damn.
Anyway, I'm sure people are in the comments talking all about their 2021 draft takes as we speak.
Revisionist history, man.
Yeah. Go off, guys. It's all crazy. It's all a crapshoot. No one knows what. It's all guessing. They get this is gonna work out. This is not gonna work out, and then then 5 years later, we all go like, how did they pass on that guy?
I told y'all should have drafted Justin Fields.
I mean, man, winning cures all ills, as they say, right? And so if the Falcons get a win, hopefully, Kyle Pitts catches another touchdown, on his 3-catch for 29-yard day or whatever he winds up having for his stat line this week. And hopefully Mariota,
he's doubled his production from last year as far as touchdown catches, Aaron. So man, that's progress, man. He's having a great season.
Yeah, he is. He is absolutely having a great season. With that being said, we will wrap up today's episode. If you're enjoying Jarvis and I losing it here at the end of the episode, well, that's what basically we do for 15 minutes on the podcast.
This is a name segment. It should be a sponsor segment right here by now. Yeah, at this point, yes. Come on.
Maybe you guys check out the podcast Sunday afternoon by subscribing to Locked On Sports Atlanta. Make Locked On Sports Atlanta between now and Sunday your second listen after you've made Locked On Falcons, as well as Locked On Sports Today. Jarvis, what are you giving the people in the coming days between now and our illustrious postcast over at Locked On Sports Atlanta?
We got a big old preview for Bears Falcons on ATL Day 1 tomorrow. We have my main man, Jason Goff. He has a podcast, the Full Go podcast on Spotify. He's going to join us. And Goff is a former colleague of Tanisha and I, so it's going to be a lot of good fun, nice little reunion, and we're going to be talking some good old football.
And if you're interested in revisiting the Fields versus Pitts conversation, of course, check out that article over at the Falcoholic, as well as some light weekend reading. Really, guys, appreciate it. I hope you have a great weekend. Hope your weekend is stress-free until 1:00 on Sunday. And then I can't even hope that your Sunday is stress-free because we're all going to be watching the Falcons. So it's going to be full of stress, but hopefully it all works out in the end. And, you know,
We
and if
watching
not,
Falcons
then,
games. Like, ain't nothing stress free about that. Like,
and if
get your
not,
blood
then
pressure pills ready. How about that?
Jarvis and I will have you, you know, we'll hold you down on Sunday afternoon in that postcast to
Indeed.
at least allow you to, you know, vent your stress in a certain direction. So we will get into that, guys. Really appreciate you tuning into us on today's episode. Have a great weekend. Till then.